Close your eyes for a second. Think about your most intense crush, not a celebrity, a real person, someone whose name still does something to you. Now ask yourself one question: why them? Not the obvious stuff. Not they were cute or they made me laugh. Go deeper, because what if the reason you fell for that specific person, their energy, their unavailability, even their flaws, wasn't random at all? What if your nervous system was running a program you didn't even know existed? Today we're going to talk about something that might genuinely change how you see your love life. We're talking about how trauma, quietly, invisibly, picks your crushes for you. Hey, welcome back. If you're new here, this channel is all about understanding yourself through the lens of psychology, not to overthink your life, but to actually live it better. Today's topic is one of our most requested because almost everyone has asked themselves at some point, why do I always fall for the same type? Why do my relationships follow the same patterns? Why am I drawn to people who aren't good for me? The answer isn't that you have bad taste. The answer is far more interesting than that. Let's break it down. 1. What is a crush really? We tend to think of crushes as spontaneous, like lightning strikes, completely out of our control. And on the surface, that feels true. You meet someone, something clicks, and suddenly they're living rent-free in your head. But psychologists will tell you that attraction is anything but random. In fact, your brain is constantly scanning people through a filter built from every significant relationship you've ever had, especially the ones from childhood. Think of it like this: your brain is essentially a matchmaking algorithm, but instead of swiping based on looks and hobbies, it's swiping based on familiarity. And familiarity means, does this person feel like something I already know? Does this dynamic feel like something I've lived through before? Sometimes that filter works in your favor. Sometimes it leads you straight back to the same painful patterns you swore you'd left behind. And the terrifying part, you usually don't notice it happening. 2. Carl Jung and the shadow self. To understand why this happens, we need to talk about one of the most fascinating ideas in psychology. Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, developed a concept called the shadow self. Your shadow is everything you've pushed into the unconscious, the parts of yourself you've rejected, suppressed, or never even fully acknowledged. Your unmet needs, your repressed desires, your childhood wounds, the version of yourself that developed in response to pain. Jung believed that the shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It shows up in your behavior, your emotional reactions, and most powerfully, in who you're attracted to. Here's how it works. When you meet someone and feel that intense, almost inexplicable pull toward them, sometimes that pull is coming from your shadow. They might represent something you're unconsciously searching for, or they might remind you on a deep psychological level of someone who once shaped you, a parent, a sibling, a first heartbreak. The clearest pop culture example of this is Joe Goldberg from You. Joe is charming, obsessive, and endlessly searching for the one. But if you watch closely, every woman he fixates on shares the same qualities: nurturing, idealized, almost impossibly perfect in his eyes. Why? Because Joe is unconsciously searching for the unconditional maternal love his neglectful mother never gave him. He's not falling in love. He's trying to heal a wound. He just doesn't know it. And so he repeats the same cycle with every new person, completely unaware. Sound familiar? It should, because most of us are doing a version of this, just with far less crime involved, hopefully. 3. The similarity attraction effect. Now here's where the science gets really interesting. Research from Boston University, published by the American Psychological Association, explored a phenomenon called the similarity attraction effect, the idea that we're powerfully drawn to people who seem to share our core identity. In the study, participants were asked about their views on deeply personal topics, things like capital punishment, animal testing, and assisted suicide. They were then introduced to a fictional character who either agreed or disagreed with them on these issues. The result? The more participants believed their opinions were shaped by their deeper, essential self, their core values, the more powerfully they were attracted to someone who mirrored those beliefs. Psychologists call this self-essentialist reasoning. The idea is that we feel like we have an inner essence, a fundamental you underneath all the surface stuff. And when someone else seems to share that essence, the connection feels almost spiritual, like they get you in a way no one else does. This isn't inherently unhealthy. Finding someone who genuinely shares your values and worldview is beautiful. The problem arises when your inner essence has been partly shaped by trauma, because then you might find yourself inexplicably drawn to people who recreate familiar pain, not because you want to suffer, but because suffering is what feels like home. Your nervous system confuses familiarity with safety, and that confusion, it can cost you years. 4. How trauma rewires attraction. Let's make this practical. What does trauma-driven attraction actually look like in real life? It might look like being obsessively drawn to emotionally unavailable people because growing up, love always felt like something you had to earn or chase. It might look like being attracted to intensity and chaos because calm, stable relationships feel boring or even suspicious because you never saw what healthy love looked like modeled for you. It might look like falling hard for people who need to be fixed or saved because being needed was the closest thing to feeling loved in your household. Or it might look like being attracted to people who are subtly critical or dismissive of you because somewhere along the way, you internalize the belief that you have to work to be worthy of affection. None of this is conscious. None of this is your fault. But all of it is worth looking at because the pattern you keep repeating in your dating life is one of the clearest windows into your unresolved wounds. 5. Breaking the pattern. So what do you actually do with this information? The first step is awareness. And you've already started just by watching this. Noticing that a pattern exists is more powerful than most people realize. Because once you see the pattern, you can't fully unsee it. The second step is curiosity over judgment. When you feel that magnetic pull toward someone, instead of just following it, get curious about it. Ask yourself, what specifically draws me to this person? Does this dynamic feel familiar? Does it remind me of something from my past? You're not trying to kill the feeling. You're just trying to understand it. The third step, and this one takes real courage, is sitting with the discomfort of something different. If you've been chasing unavailable people your whole life, a kind and consistent person might feel almost boring at first. That doesn't mean they're wrong for you. It might mean they're the healthiest thing you've ever encountered. And your nervous system just hasn't learned to recognize that as love yet. And finally, therapy, journaling, or even honest conversations with people you trust can help you surface what's living in your shadow. You don't have to do this alone. Here's the truth. A crush is never just a crush. Every person you've been inexplicably drawn to has something to tell you about yourself, about your needs, your wounds, and the kind of love you're actually looking for underneath all of it. That's not a sad thing. That's actually one of the most hopeful things psychology has to offer, because it means your patterns aren't permanent. They're just programs, and programs can be rewritten. Drop in the comments. Have you ever noticed a pattern in who you fall for? What did it teach you about yourself? We read every single one. Take care of yourselves. See you next time.